if you pour a really good foundation, like a really strong foundation, you could build a building on top of it that'll last hundreds of years. It doesn't matter if it's raining, if it's snowing, if it's fucking, a really good one will last through a hurricane or a tornado. It's all about how willing you are to lay down that foundation, because building your day upon it gives you an opportunity to be successful for long periods of time.
Hello and welcome to the Vinny Brusco Show podcast, episode number 430. This week's episode, I'm joined by Mike Chernow. Mike is a optimized human being. He is the co-founder of Meatballers Italian restaurant in New York City. It's like this Italian comfort food. He's also the founder of Seamore's, which is a Montauk, Long Island vibe in New York City and Brooklyn, 2 locations. He is also the creator of Creatures of Habit, which is helping people live their best life through nutritional products that promote healthy daily habits. And he's also the host of the Born or Made podcast. He's also a bodybuilder. He's a dime piece. I'm not gonna lie, he's a good looking dude. And Mike and I, he's a family man, he's a father, he's a husband, he is now a dog owner, and he is a very balanced human being. For being an entrepreneur, for being physically fit, for being a father, he has compartmentalized, can never say that word, his life. And Mike and I got into a heap of different things, the importance of habits, cold showers, heat saunas, how do you compartmentalize your life? That work-life balance that I'm always talking about, creating micro habits, mindset, journaling. We got into a whole bunch of stuff and what has led him to creating his life and being successful in the entrepreneur space and being successful as a restaurateur and what it took to show up in those ways and all the small signs along the way. Because it's all about connecting the dots, and hindsight's 2020. So I hope you enjoy this episode number 430 with Mike Chernow. Enjoy.
Hey guys, this is Mike Chernow, and you are checking out the Vinny Brusco Show. We're talking about a lot of things. We cover a bunch, and I'm fired up for you guys to listen along and tell us what you think. Peace.
I like diving into people like this, the people who are dialed into the frequency of just successful entrepreneurs. As always, all of these episodes are available on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, wherever you get podcasts. This show is available there. So subscribe, rate, review the show. If you're watching this on YouTube, just fucking do me a favor, subscribe to the podcast, leave a little review, spread the word, blah, 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 algorithm, nonsense, blah, blah, blah. So wherever you're getting this, subscribe, rate, review, tell a friend, spread the word. It is greatly, greatly, greatly appreciated. As always, I'm offering a free 30-minute coaching consultation call. One of the greatest things I do in my life is being a dad. I will say it is something I am great at. I love being a dad. There's no question about it. And I wanted to niche down and help dads who are in that. It's tough. It's not easy being a dad. It's not easy to be a dad. It is a lot. If you want to be more present with your kids, you want to be more patient with your kids. That's a big one. Fucking patience. God damn it. Those are hard. It's a full picture. And if you're looking to up your dad game, give me a call, 914-712-8845, or you can book your free consultation over at vinnybrusco.com. Also, as always, this podcast is brought to you by Root CBD. I'm a huge proponent of CBD. I've been using it for 4 or 5 years now, and I've used a variety of different brands and different products, and none of them really stood out to me like Root CBD. First of all, they're a full spectrum CBD. So you're getting all the essential fatty acids, proteins, vitamins straight from the source. They're not skipping steps. This isn't some gas station bullshit CBD. This is high quality, full spectrum CBD. And they have a variety of different products, from flour to gummies to tinctures. I take a little tincture in the morning, take a little gummy at night. Sometimes I flip flop those. A little flour when I'm here in the pod shed, about to do a podcast. Whatever it is, Root CBD has something for everyone. And for listeners of this podcast, you can get 15% off your purchase when you go to rootcbdco.com. That's RUTCBDco.com and enter the promo code the VB Show and get 15% off of your purchase. Root CBD, stay true to yours. And if you want to contribute to this podcast, you want to get the Thor battle axe up there, you want to get some cool shit here in the pod shed, or maybe you just want to show some love for the show, head on over to patreon.com/the VB show, and you could become a patron of the show anywhere from $5 to $1,135. I'll take your money. Fuck it. You want to give me some money to do this? I will gladly take it. So head on over to patreon.com/the VB show and become a patron of the podcast. And last but not least, this podcast is also brought to you by Mike Bledsoe and the team over at Strong Coach. Mike and his team is changing what it means to be a coach, life coach, physical coach, whatever kind of coach you are. Mike is breaking it down to the micro steps, the 1% that we talk about all the time on this show, the small incremental habits that you need to do on a day-to-day business to ultimately achieve financial freedom, which is, how huge is that? And freedom of your time. Might be even bigger than the financial freedom. So if you're a coach in any walk of life and you're looking to up your coaching game, head on over to thestrongcoach.com/the VB show and book your call with Mike or one of his team members.
And here we go.
What's up, man?
Come on, brother.
How are you?
I'm well, man. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Not bad.
Sweet. Where are you?
I'm in New Rochelle, Westchester, New York.
Oh, cool, man.
Where are you? You're up in the Catskills, right?
Yeah, well, I'm in the Hudson Valley, so I'm on the other side of the Catskills. I'm on the east side of the Hudson River.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you like it up there?
How's my lighting? Am I all right?
You look great.
Fantastic.
You look great. How do you like it up there?
I really love it up here. I wasn't planning on moving here full time, but when the pandemic hit, the wife and I said, you know what, let's pack up our shit, go to the house upstate, see what happens. And man, we just sort of like kind of fell in love with the life up here. I go down to the city a couple of days a week. She's up here full time with the kids. And, I take the train down on Tuesday mornings and I come back on Thursday afternoons, and it sort of gives me time to focus on my work while I'm down there. And when I'm up here, I'm like, I work Monday and Friday, of course, but like I really get to pay more attention to my family, which is fucking awesome.
Yeah, that balance is so key. And there's definitely a different, I was actually having this conversation on Father's Day, and we had the family over and we were just kind of having that conversation of like, why do we do this? Like, why do we live in these highly concentrated areas? I'm 15 minutes outside of Manhattan, but realistically speaking, driving wise, you know how it is, but there's like that energy from Manhattan like spills out. You have people commuting in and commuting out. And I have this conversation with my wife all the time and just family. I was like, why do we do this? Why do we put ourselves in these areas, concentrated, tense? Like it has a different morphic resonance to it. Like, And then once you start to get like upstate, like you do like energetically feel freer.
100%. I mean, I love the energy in the city, but I also love the juxtaposition of the energy up here. You know what I mean? It's like, especially like, yesterday was muggy and hot, but just like, I've got a gorgeous property and, it's a blessing being up here. There's no doubt.
Yeah, there's definitely.
I also have this crazy puppy, this fucking, oh my God, he's amazing, but he's just, I got him outside on a lead on a long, like 20-foot thing. And he's just standing in front of the fucking door. He's just staring at me.
She's like,
yeah.
He's
Pretty
like,
much. Yeah. Like it's a nonstop full-time job.
Yeah.
I gotta have him tied up everywhere.
I don't want my kids like, let's get a dog. My daughter's 6, my son's 2. I'm like, no, there's no way we could add a dog into the mix of this household.
It actually works really well when they're like 2 on. Like once they get past the puppy stage, it's like he just chews on everything. So like everything has to be moved away from him. He has to be on a fucking leash constantly in the house.
Definitely sounds like my son has to be like, we gated off the front part of our living room, the hallway to the bedrooms, gated off the kitchen. Like he has to be quarantined in the house because he'll just wander. And I'm like, if he's too quiet for too long, you're like, he's into some shit right now.
Yeah, I've got a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old, man. I know the vibes. Wait until they're 3 though. 3 and 6 is awesome. They're like 1, man. They like really start to occupy each other's time. It's great.
Yeah. How do you find balance with family and with work and with training? Because from the Instagram viewer, right, from the person on the outside looking in, you seem like a guy who's got it all dialed in. Like you seem to be operating on a frequency that's really elevated. What was that transition into that kind of mindset where you were able to be like, all right, this is my family time, this is my time? Because I feel like so many people, they start to bleed into each other. And you're present at home, but then you're kind of omnipresent because your mind's somewhere else doing something else. How have you kind of dialed into that frequency?
I've got 3 routines that I stick to every day. I've got a morning routine. I have a transition from work to family routine. And then I've got a transition for my sleeping routine. So I've got 3 routines that I stick to that give me an opportunity to truly break up my day in 3 different phases that I do my absolute very best to be consistent with. My morning routine, I would say, is the routine that I'm most consistent with. And I really think about it like all we have is a day to do things. We can't do anything in the future. And what's done in the past is done, and you can't do anything to change it. So if my focus is the day and I start my day early in the morning, I have an opportunity to win. I literally wake up every single morning at 5:15, 5:13 to 5:15. I don't use an alarm. My body is attuned at this point to just opening up my eyes at that time. The first thing I do when I wake up in the morning is I smile from ear to ear, like shit-eating grin. And I think about the things I'm most grateful for, which tend to be my wife and kids. And my head always goes to them sitting at our breakfast table in the morning. Got my eyes open. I'm thinking about my kids. I'm smiling like a fucking idiot. And I count to 15. And that whole time I'm smiling. And what that does for me, it kicks off serotonin in my body immediately. And a lot of us wake up with anxiety. It's just part of the human condition, right? Like we're conditioned to sort of be aware. And so I wake up early in the morning and I do that. And about 10 seconds in, I begin to feel like actual optimism and positivity like wash over my body. And then I kind of think about how silly I must look almost every morning, smiling like that. And I get a laugh out, like an out loud laugh, which is like, another sort of boost of serotonin. So that's the first thing I do in the morning to combat any sort of anxiety that I might wake up with. And then I immediately go into the bathroom. I brush my teeth. I put on my contact lenses. I splash ice cold water on my face. And I take a piss. And then I step on the scale because I'm a competitive athlete. So I'm always, calibrating my weight and my macros. And then I get on the floor and I have a morning prayer that I say every single morning. I'm not a religious guy. I don't think there's anything wrong with religion, but for me, I'm not a religious dude. I'm just have gotten used to the habit of asking for help from the universe first thing in the morning. And it puts me in a sort of humility-based mindset where I am asking for help first thing in the beginning of the day so that it gives me an opportunity to be a bit more comfortable with asking for help throughout the day, because I believe asking for help is a solution for everything and anything. And so I ask for help, and then I do 50 push-ups to get my blood pumping. And then I sneak past my wife because she's typically sleeping at 5, whatever, at that point, 5:25 in the morning. And I go downstairs, I make myself a cup of coffee. I open up my journal planner and I write out my day, and it prompts a few questions. It makes me think. And then typically by 6 a.m., I'm in the gym, which is in my garage, and I train for about an hour and a half. Halfway through my training, I come out, I give my wife and kids a hug and a kiss. So 2 to 3 days a week, I take my kids to school. And then, by 9 o'clock, I'm pretty much on with my day. I am a sober guy. I've been sober for a really long time. And so I think because of that, I've been given an opportunity to be clear most of the time. And so I do attend an AA meeting most days at 9:30 in the morning on Zoom. But really my day goes from 9 to, my work day goes from like 9 to 5:30. At 5:30, when my wife and kids are home, I shut my computer and I use a CBD tincture. There's a number of different, CBD tinctures that I use, but the one that I use it's a calming tincture. So like I basically take the tincture and I sort of like really try to zone into family time, and I'm present, and I'm with my wife and kids from 6 to, we have dinner at 6 every night. And then, we hang out until around 7:15, 7:30. And then I typically put my kids down. We switch on and off. And then I'm with my wife, and my wife and I hang out from 7:45 to 9:30. And whatever, we hang out, we watch some Netflix, we'll read a book. But at around 9 o'clock, I start my sleep routine, which is I take a sleep CBD tincture. Actually, before that, every single night I have a late night protein shake that I fucking love. And it really quenches my sweet tooth. So I make this smoothie. It's actually really healthy, but I make it the consistency of ice cream. So I feel like I'm eating ice cream every night. And then at 9 o'clock, I do my tincture. I have this hot chocolate Rishi ashwagandha hot chocolate thing, and I don't look at my phone after 8:30 at night, and we make our way up to bed. And I have something called a chili pad, which is it keeps my side of the bed very cool. So I have it set at 55 degrees. It gets down to 61, 62. So I'm always sleeping in a cool environment. I sleep with an eye mask, and literally about a minute and a half after I put my head down, I always listen to an audiobook as I'm going to sleep, but I'm asleep within, a minute and a half to 2 minutes. There's 3 different phases to my day. And because I've broken it up that way, it really gives me an opportunity to have balance in my life. I will say that out of all those routines, it sounds really structured and it sounds really regimented, because it is, but it gives me absolute freedom because it covers all the bases in my life. And everything in between those routines are sort of free game for me to really do what I want to do. And most of the time it's work. On the weekends, I do my morning routine and I work out, and then I dedicate my weekends to my family. So I don't work on the weekends anymore. And, I'm with the kids and with my wife, and we're cooking, and we do things like that. So there are times in my, throughout my career where I've had to, augment or, change the regimen based on whether I'm launching a business or I'm opening a restaurant or, but ultimately I really try to stick to that. And that really helps me to frame out my day, because efficiency and optimization is something that I really do care about. And I know that, I like sports analogies. If you're a football fan, I'm a big football fan. I pay attention to the different positions on the field, right? And, if you didn't know anything about football and you saw the quarterback say hike, you would just think it was a bunch of dudes just running at each other.
Right.
But the truth is that every single one of those guys knows exactly what to do to the millisecond. They know exactly where they're running. They know exactly who they're blocking. It's absolute controlled chaos. And that's how I kind of think about my life. If I can structure it so that I know exactly what I'm doing. One other thing that I would suggest for anybody is this thing is my planner journal. And I basically lay my day out so that every half hour for the most part is scheduled. And I obviously have a phone schedule, but when you write out your schedule on a half hour basis, it really allows me to also check in. If I write this out in the morning, it reminds me of what I have to do. And then halfway through the day, I refer to it and I'm like, all right, I've hit all these things. Now I can look at what I've got, for the next few hours. So I really enjoy structure. Structure, I believe, gives me a real opportunity to be efficient and optimize and spend the right time with my family, spend the right time on business, and then of course, spend the right time on my wellness.
It's the Jocko Willink Aristotle, discipline equals freedom. And I want to go back to the idea of your morning ritual and your morning routine, because I think when I was most dialed into my own personal routine, it was something up at 4:30 because the kids and stuff like that. And my wife's a teacher, so you have to balance out all those schedules. But when I was most dialed in, I was up at 4 doing the yoga, doing the working out. And it does set you up for a different day, right? It sets you up completely different. My old mindset, and still is, be done before the sun, right? Like I want to beat the day to itself. Because if I can get that leg up on the day on my own, then the rest of the day is going to be a lot easier, right? I'm going to be optimized and in a mindset where I'm not being reactive, right? I'm going to be able to respond to what comes to me just because, you know, that energy that you're moving in the morning, just waking up and you talk about waking up and smiling. There's this book called Good Morning, I Love You. And, you know, it's part of my meditation practice, but at the end of it, I'll say like, good morning, Vincent, I love you. And that's a really awkward thing to do at first, right? Like it's a weird thing that we can't compliment or smile or think that, you know, like you said, like how ridiculous I look just smiling ear to ear in my bed. And we get that own internal narrative that can potentially put us on a completely different trajectory. But if you can kind of overcome that to some regard and manage that, it puts you in a completely different mindset. And then it starts to, you know, kind of seep into other areas of your life.
I'll add even more to that, right? Like, and I'm not ashamed to say this. I put myself first always. And that could sound selfish in some light, right? However, I don't sacrifice time with my family and time with business for myself. I put myself first, meaning I am the first one up. I am the first one doing things because I know that when I feel well inside, I am able to act well towards others. You know, when I don't feel well inside, the byproduct of that is ultimately not awesome to be around me, right? And that goes for everyone. When people are not feeling well, like think about it when you're sick, right? When you're sick, you're lying in bed, you feel like shit, people are tending to you. Well, if you don't take care of yourself on a regular basis, chances are your mental state is going to be sick, like you have the flu. And people are not going to want to be around you, and you're not going to be fun or add value to most situations. And so I literally put myself first before my wife, before my kids, to get well so that I can be a better husband, father, brother, son, business partner, employer, like all those things. I am better by taking care of myself. It's a really important thing to mention. You know, it's not selfish putting yourself first. As a matter of fact, if you have the discipline to wake up super early in the morning and focus on the things that will make you a better person, then by all means, put yourself first because you will be better for it.
Yeah, but culturally, we throw around that selfish word, right? Like, oh, that's a selfish thing to do. Oh, that's selfish. And then you start to kind of wear that moniker of being a selfish person. And you're absolutely right. Like if I'm feeling like shit, right? Whether it be physically, mentally, spiritually, I can't show up as the best version of myself. If I'm not clicking on all cylinders, then it means I'm just kind of lagging behind, and it's going to be harder for me to be a better father, to be a better son, to be a better husband, whatever it is. And it's so important to serve yourself first.
Yeah, 100%.
When did this shift kind of happen for you? You know, you say you're not a religious guy, but you ask the universe for help. You obviously humble yourself quite often. When did that kind of shift kind of come about, and how did it come about?
I kind of have to bring it back to when I changed my life when I was 23. You know, I was walking a path of destruction and I needed a change. And that change came in the form of getting sober. And, you know, when I was getting sober, I met a few guys along the way who I really looked up to, who were in amazing shape, who were these Muay Thai kickboxers. They were sober. They were like, you know, either running businesses, had their own businesses, or they were like high level at some business. And I was really lucky to have these guys in my path. I got given a list of suggestions that were to change my life. And one of them was, yo, man, you know, like if you sleep in the morning, you're giving up valuable time that you can be taking care of yourself. So waking up early in the morning is something that we highly recommend you do. And then they taught me how to eat. And they basically were like, because I just didn't know how to eat then, nutrition is a huge part of my life in terms of, you know, feeling well. And so, you know, they were like, hey, man, you know, you should probably eat oatmeal in the morning. And you should, you know, let's just start you with eating chicken and broccoli for the rest of the day. And
Right. Classic.
I was like, you know, simple, right? They were like chicken breast, broccoli, you can get it anywhere, you know? And so that's what they told me to do. And I, you know, began this journey, man. And I was waking up early, and they gave me a schedule. They said, wake up, have your breakfast, go to an AA meeting in the morning. After the meeting, go to the gym and train for a few hours. When you're done with that, go have lunch, then go home, because I worked at night at the time. They were like, then go home, take a nap, and then go to work. And that was the beginning of my structure. And I stuck to that. And I actually became obsessed with it. And then I became obsessed with the fitness. And fitness, I would say, the commitment that one can make towards fitness is life-changing. Fitness really saved my life in many, many ways. I owe an enormous amount of gratitude towards those guys for introducing me to fitness in the early days of me changing my life. But, about 8-9 months after I cleaned up my act, I met who is now my wife, Donna, and I got very lucky, man. I got really lucky to find a woman who was incredibly down to earth, really supported me with what I was doing and believed in me. And we're together, we just celebrated our 14-year wedding anniversary. We're together 16 years. I can't even believe I'm saying that. I feel like I'm 25 years old. But, so I think like the stars just aligned for me, 23 to 24. And those guys really helped me develop structure. I really got to put in a plug for, you said discipline equals freedom. Like, I have discipline equals freedom tattooed on my hand because, I'm a fan of Jocko Willink, and I think it sums it up, like it really, if you pour a really good foundation, like a really strong foundation, you could build a building on top of it that'll last hundreds of years. It doesn't matter if it's raining, if it's snowing, if it's fucking, a really good one will last through a hurricane or a tornado. It's all about how willing you are to lay down that foundation, because building your day upon it gives you an opportunity to be successful for long periods of time.
It's so true. And you're absolutely right that the foundation has to be, unfortunately and fortunately, discipline. But again, kind of going back to those social stigmas that we hear, we're raised with discipline being this negative thing. We have these negative connotations in our consciousness, subconsciousness, wherever it lies, with discipline, right? And when you could shift the meaning of discipline and use it for you, and you could use discipline in your favor and realize that discipline doesn't mean that you're grounded or that you have to kneel on rice or that you're in trouble. It means that you are able to kind of have constraints and awareness around your well-being, around your betterment, and you could shift the meaning of discipline. It kind of opens up all new doors for you.
You're right. Absolutely. That discipline tends to come off as some sort of a negative connotation. But if you are a disciplined person, you don't ever have to worry about being disciplined by somebody else.
Right.
And, and so, like I used to have to, I hated discipline as a kid because I was an absolute maniac. And so discipline was like a part of my life in a way that I did not enjoy it. Now discipline is something I enjoy more so than ever. I wear it on my sleeve. I have the ability to make a decision, commit to it, and take it to fruition. And that, I think, was something I learned through fitness. This idea of discipline definitely is something that we learn as a kid to be, not great. However, it saves my life every single day, and people respect the living shit out of me for it because I do what I say I'm going to do, and we are, at the end of the day, as strong and as powerful as our word. If you say something and don't do it, slowly but surely, you begin to lose respect for yourself. And then ultimately, the people around you begin to lose respect for you when you continue to, there's a lot of shit talkers. And so don't talk shit, like I have a rule. If I want to do something, I don't say it. When I know I'm going to do it, I'll say it out loud. I want to do a lot of things that I keep to myself. But when I make something public, meaning outside of my own two ears, you can guarantee I do it. And I might not win, but I put my fucking effort into it.
Yeah, and that can go both ways, right? Because there is this idea of like, it's like put it out there so that like you have to almost adhere to it to some degree, right? Like if you put it out there, it means like you got to follow through with it. But then there's also like the idea of like naysayers and negative people kind of chiming in and trying to kind of pull you into the mud with them. How do you kind of manage those people in your life? Because I'm sure you come across a shit ton of them. Most of the time, I'm sure it's people doing significantly less than you. How do you deal with people who are trying to kind of pull you down into their world?
I'll tell you a story. About a year and a half after I opened the Meatball Shop, my partner Daniel, we had an opportunity to sit down with a guy named Ron Shake, who's the founder of Au Bon Pain and Panera Bread Company. And at that time, the Meatball Shop was on fire. Like literally, it was off the chart. We had no idea that it was going to do what it did. But we were opening restaurants, and there was Meatball Shop knockoffs popping up everywhere. You know, it was like a phenomenon. It was crazy. No one had done a meatball centric concept. And we sat down with Ron and we said, hey man, how are we supposed to deal with all these copycats? And he looked at us both and said, this is the one piece of advice I'm going to give you guys. And if I say nothing else in this conversation, you should walk away with this. The second you spend worrying about what other people think or do is a second you spend not focused on what you're doing. Don't fucking waste time thinking about what other people think and do. Do you. And that is going to be the most successful path. And I was like, wow, he's right. You know, I have no control. You have no control over what people think or do. Zero control. There is nothing you can do to control how somebody thinks. You actually can't even control your first thought. Your first thought just happens. Innate. It just pops up. Somebody walks into the room that you don't think is cool or you don't like or whatever. Boom, first thought. I don't like that person. And so if you were to act on that first thought every single time, you'd be in big fucking trouble. That said, we have control over how we respond to our first thought, right? We have very little control, or actually none at all, over 99% of the things that happen around us in the world on a daily basis. As we, pay attention, we begin to gain control over how we respond to life, right? If you live a reactionary life, you said it before, if you react, like you react when somebody's running at you with a gun. You react when somebody throws a grenade at you. You react if you're in the ring and, somebody fakes with a left and throws a right, you get out of the way. But responding to life is so much more efficient.
Oh, yeah.
And, having that awareness is monumental. I think the power is in the pause. It really is. I'll tell you another story. I was sitting, and this is also early day Meatball Shop. I was sitting in a board meeting with myself and a couple of the bigger investors in the company. And I was 29 or 30 years old, and I thought my opinion needed to be heard all the time. I just thought it was necessary that everybody knew what was going on in my head. And I thought I was right most of the time too. I walk out of the board meeting. There's a guy named Sandy Beals, founder of Ruby Tuesdays, like legend in the restaurant business. And he took me aside and he looked at me and he said, Mike, you're smart and I'm in business with you. You got to do me a favor. And I was like, what? And he's like, you got to shut the fuck up, because every time you open your mouth, you put your foot in it. You don't need to say anything, man. You really don't need to say anything. All you need to do is listen. If you are so passionate about something, you can say it outside of a board meeting. But if it's not on the agenda, you should not say it, because you don't have to. And I was like, what do you mean I don't have to? I don't have to say how I'm feeling. He was like, no, because if you're right, it'll happen. And if you're wrong, it'll play out the way it plays out. The most successful people in the game are amazing listeners. They're observers, they're listeners. And when you lead by listening, you get much further. And that stuck with me, man. I say very little, and I'm launching a business in a couple of months. And in our team calls, I make sure that we have a really strong agenda, and everything that I want to say, I make sure is on that agenda. And aside from that, I don't say much. I just listen. And it far less drama, far less conflict. And if I'm really, really passionate about it, sometimes I'll open my mouth and mention something. But most of the time, I just let it play out, and I pause, and I have patience. And the power is really in the pause, man. Somebody says something to you that you don't like, you can react to it and get into a fight and not change anything. Or you can just pause and you can receive it, give yourself a little time to let it marinate, before you say something that's going to fucking create a problem that you don't want to have to deal with, you know?
Yeah. You know, for me, that was a very big line of demarcation in my own, if someone said to me, like, when did you become a man? I would say that's probably one of those moments when I learned, and it doesn't happen all the time, especially with children, right? But when you could take that trigger and you can learn to respond rather than react to it, it becomes a fucking superpower, man. Like, time slows down when that thing happens and you realize you have a choice in what your response is to this. You don't have, like, to your point, like, we feel that we have to be heard or seen. And I think that's the huge thing there, is that people on so many levels aren't heard or seen, right? In their everyday lives, whether it be their jobs, their relationships, themselves. They don't go into themselves. So they feel they need this outward expression in a quick reaction that will make them, that will validate them. Where when you can kind of have that stillness within yourself, you realize, all right, cool. Like, I don't need to do anything right now. I could just observe the chessboard and look at the pieces on here.
Yeah, 100%.
You said something earlier about like being humbled and humbling yourself. That's a huge part of my mindset. I do Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I did CrossFit for a while, meditating, sensory deprivation, cold showers. Those are all things that I proactively do to humble myself, because they're all things I don't necessarily want to be doing, but it kind of goes to your point earlier. It's like, it's about showing up for yourself in those moments. What are some things, I know you did Muay Thai for a little bit. What are some things that, martial arts, the fitness world, that humble you? Like, how do you stay humble in those existences?
I like to do hard things. Hard things humble us, right? Because if you're really good at it, when it's hard, it means you're growing. Challenge for me is my oxygen. I need to feel challenged. I force challenge. I force failure or close to failure every day. Like, I could honestly say that I've been weight training for 4 or 5 years. I've put myself through intense phases nutritionally and with fitness. And I add weight to the bar or to the dumbbell every single set. Even if I can't get it off the ground, I'll attempt. That is totally humiliating in many cases, right? And I don't mean humiliating where I'm like shaming myself. I mean, it's just like, you try to go attempt something and you get stopped. And that keeps me humble in those environments. In my work environments, I have been I was a technician for years before I was a business owner. I know what it's like to be on the other side of the coin in my industry. And I'm not like, I don't look like a typical restaurateur, right? Even though I've opened up, 14 restaurants throughout my career. When I'm walking around the restaurant, I'm working, dude. I'm busting tables. I'm running food. I'm checking in with guests. I'm taking the door if I have to. I'm jumping on the line if I have to cook. There's no job that's too big or too small for me. And that's genuinely how I feel. I'm not doing it for like pats on the back. I'm doing it because I want to be a worker amongst workers, no matter where I'm at in the company. And that, I think, is a direct reflection of who I've become. I love when people think I'm, the waiter or the busboy. I love it. I really do. And I'm never like, oh, don't you know? Because, I never, it's just, like, for me, it's like, it's a good feeling. And it's a good feeling when the staff that I work with, sees me in work mode and stoked to see the boss busting his ass with the rest of them. It's important for me. And so humility is a huge part of my life. I lead with kindness. Sometimes it bites me in the ass. Sometimes, people need a little bit more assertiveness, and I know how to turn up the volume if I have to. But, for me, leading with kindness is the way. I would much rather be loved than feared. And, because I think at a certain level, if you draw the right boundaries with discipline, people respect that, and they want to kill for you. You know, if you scare the shit out of people every time you walk into a room, they're going to steal from you. They're going to try to get over on you. You know, if a bus comes down the street and your back is turned to it, chances are they might not tell you. But when you treat them with love and kindness and care and like family, they'll jump in front of a bus for you. And that's the kind of, you know, leadership techniques, or the leadership sort of tactic I use is I genuinely do care about the people that I work with. And so that's all also keeps me humble.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing is having a leadership mindset rather than being a boss or a manager or an owner, right? Because when you can get in the foxhole with people, they know that you're there with them, right? Rather than just observing from your ivory tower and kind of just looking at numbers or Excel spreadsheets and being like, improve this, change that, when you're not in the day-to-day shit with them. It's very easy to point that finger, and that goes a long way. Like you said, like being kind and just treating people how they, you know, how you want to be treated as a person, right? How you would want to be spoken to. And there are going to be people who are going to manipulate that and use that against you, but those aren't the people that are meant to be on your path, right? And those are the people you go, okay, like they show their colors in that moment.
Yep.
How has being a father kind of, I know for me, being a father has brought this whole new perspective on seeing the world, you know, like it's seeing the world all over again through child's eyes, you know, the wonder of a 2-year-old when they see ants or the questions that they ask you. How has that kind of played a role in your own, I want to say, spiritual development, mental development, kind of, how has that kind of had its hand in your life?
I love being a father.
Same.
You know, I absolutely love being a father. I had a pretty rough relationship with my dad. It was not good. And most people looking at my childhood would never imagine that I'd be this sort of loving, caring, like, you know, goofball dad. But I am. And I don't even do it like purposefully. It's just who I am. I love being a dad. My wife is the boss, man. She just is, you know, she's king of the castle, and I'm along for the ride. I'm the fun dad, and my kids, I love them. I love them to death. It's really given me an opportunity to practice patience in my life, selfishly, right? Like I play a game, my kids, and my mother actually, where, you know, if they're doing something that's really difficult for me to like deal with, I really play a game and I just say, all right, Mike, this is your responding opportunity. Yeah. How are you going to respond to this? How are you going to conduct? Are you going to take the bait and get angry and get flustered? And I'm not perfect all the time, specifically with my mother. Being a father has just been that, you know, there's only one thing. I have 2 sons. I said to my wife, look, and I'm an athlete and I've always been an athlete, right? Like sports are a big deal for me. Like, you know, I just am. It's who I am. But I said to my wife, look, you know, I'm not gonna force the kids into any sports. I'm not going to tell them what I think they should do. I'm going to tell them that they can do whatever they want to do, and I'll support them no matter what. The one thing that I forced on my kids is the New York Giants, the New York Yankees, and the New York Rangers. That's the one caveat that I'm not willing to part ways with. They must be specifically New York Giants fans. And aside from that, they can do whatever the hell they want.
Yeah, I love they will test your patience. And again, having that awareness in those moments. And you know, I had the other morning getting my kids ready for school, and I dropped my son off, and I'm with my daughter in the car, and we get to the end of the road, and she goes, so Dad, how could we have handled that better? And I'm just like, you got it. I'm like, all right. I'm like, touche. I was like, we could have. Yeah, she's 6, and I was like, all right, let's dive into this. And I'm like, how do you think I could have handled it better? She's like, well, and she got into it. But you know, I think a huge part of it is creating the consciousness in them, and then, you know, making them upgraded versions of you, right? Like you want to like trim the fat of like I have amazing parents, but like you want to trim the fat from them, right? And then you want to be an upgraded 2.0 version of them. And you want to trim the fat from yourself and realize like your faux pas and your issues, and you want to upgrade your kids. And I think that's such a huge actually had that moment kind of running the other day. I started trail running for God only knows what reason. But I was like, I had this moment, I was like, what is the purpose of that? And I was like, because you just want to optimize like your lineage. You want to optimize like whether you want to say your family name or whatever it is, but like ultimately you want to optimize, you know, the species, right? And if we can create better versions of ourselves and have that go over lifetimes, then ultimately, hopefully, we can create a better, more harmonious world, right?
100%.
It's it's just a rad concept because, you know, you could have, or any one of us can carry that baggage from our parents, right? And not have the awareness around our own children to shift and to kind of create better humans.
Well, you know, I think that one thing that we forget is that we have a choice in every decision we make. You have a choice, you know, you really do. You have a choice. And typically, you know what the right choice is. And if you don't, I'll go back to the asking for help. You should surround yourself with some people that you look up to or that you respect, that you would potentially call mentor, that you can refer to if you're in a place of indecision. But, you know, we do have a choice, and our choices are what define our success or lack thereof. And we are able to honestly pave that path. And sometimes we forget that, you know, we really do have a choice. And there's definitely influences all around, right? Social media, the digital world, like it's just everywhere. But, you know, compare and despair is a bad place to be. You know, you have a choice every single moment of every single day to make the decision to be better than yesterday. And that's sort of the motto I like to live by.
Yeah, and that awareness around the idea that you do have a choice is so empowering, because I think that's where so many people get tripped up in their own existence, is they fall victim to themselves and their mindsets. And it becomes a very powerful tool when you could recognize things are happening for you or things are happening to you, right? It's the age-old mindset shift where you could say like, oh, these kids are driving me fucking crazy and it's this and it's that. Or you can say, here's an opportunity to test your skills. Can you sharpen your sword? And like, I think of like Legend of Zelda, as like you start off in a loincloth with a stick and you're just bonking things over the head. But as you get like the Damascus sword and you get more armor, like you take on stronger, harder villains. You know, the bad guys get tougher, and that's life. And when you could put things in that perspective, like I'm leveling up throughout life and I could keep on leveling up, and I'm not going to like, I can't approach the Goomba for Super Mario the same way I approach Bowser. I need to handle these things differently in life. And, you know, it is a choice. And that's where people, I think, they play the victim mindset. And when you could kind of get ahead of the curve on your decision by creating those similar experiences to use, to draw from, right? You said like you create difficulty, you create, you know, things that humble you, so that when that comes up in another version of that, you go, oh, this is the same thing. It's just wearing a different suit.
Yep. That's it.
I want to ask you about your podcast, Born or Made. How did you get
Yeah,
into
you know,
it? It seems like a natural progression.
I love this, right? I love the dialogue. I love connecting with human beings. I am also really curious to know if people that rise to the top are born with some inherent / innate ability for ambition. Really what it comes down to is the nature nurture question, right? Sure. Is it how you're raised or is it how you were born? I have my own personal thought on that. I think everybody is born with a certain talent, right? Like when you think about Whitney Houston or Van Gogh or Michael Jordan or Tiger Woods, the list goes on with just like extraordinary people. Chances are Stevie Wonder was born with his skill to sing and play the piano, you know, like, and I think the journey in life is to really pay attention and have self-awareness so that you can understand what your skill and or talent is, get there as fast as possible and capitalize on it. And so that's the inspiration for the podcast, to really get on there with people that have inspired me and many, many others, to understand their way of thinking and understand if things that they've done along the way either helped make them, or if they were things that they just did intuitively without explanation. You know, for me, I can't tell you why at 6 years old I wanted to sell any toy that I was bored playing with. Most kids would just pile them in a toy box, leave them. Me, I was asking my older sister if she would come downstairs and set up in front of the building so that I can sell my toys for $1. I don't know why I used to go into Alex's MVP baseball card shop and buy $5 grab bag comic, envelopes that always had 3 to 5 comics in them, and open them up and see if there was anything I liked in there. And then if I liked it, I would keep and read it. And if I didn't like it, I would stand in front of the store and try to sell them for $1 to get my money back. I can't tell you why I did that. I really don't know, but I did that. And I continue to hustle that way until this very day here. I have, I have this drive to want to do and make, and typically in a creative, fun way, culture oriented. I've always thought that way, and I question why. And I wanted to ask other people, I wanted to ask other people if they thought that they were born with the skill that they have. And honestly, it's been 25, 25, 50. 50% of the people say it's both. 25 say they were born, 25 say they were made. So it really says 75% think that they were born, because if it's both, you're born, right? I think that the way I described it early, a minute ago, was everybody's born with a specific skill set or talent. They are. Some people are analyzers, right? Some people don't love to communicate and make things look pretty and fluffy. And, some people want to know what's going on behind the wall. They can care less about what the wall looks like. They want to know, where the plumbing is and where the wires are and where what kind of coax you're running to the fucking point of sale. They really, really are passionate about it. Some people love spreadsheets and love figuring out formulas. Other people couldn't care less about it. Like me, I don't love spreadsheets. I really want to be creative. And so I was born with a creative gene to make things and make people believe me. That's my superpower. I have an ability to get people to believe, and I don't do it in a malicious sort of mischievous way. I believe myself. And when I believe myself, I'm good at convincing people that what I'm bringing to the table is valuable and they should be a part of it too. And then once they're in, I make them feel special.
Yeah, it's a tough one, because so much of society will tell you what to think, what to feel. It will bury the essence of who you are. I see it with my daughter. Like, she likes Star Wars, but I also have a Boba Fett helmet in here. So and an R2-D2. So does she like Star Wars because I like Star Wars, or does she intrinsically like Star Wars, right? And then you see it, when they come home from school and the way they interact with their kids and then the things they start to say. And she's 6, right? So she's starting to leave that alpha brainwave state where she's just pure essence. Like my son, he's just pure essence of who he is. Unapologetic. He wants to bite the wooden dinner table. He's just going to fucking sit there and gnaw on it. And you could say no 100 times. Like, nope, I'm going to sit here and bite this fucking table. We have to instill certain things, right? Because you can't have that. But society and parents and culture and friends and all these things do start to bury the essence of who you are. And I think so much of the journey of life is kind of what you were speaking on, is rediscovering that essence. Right. And if you can never lose that, then kudos to you. But so many people lose that essence in who they are, what they are. The culture has told them who to be. We kind of placate to it, right? For jobs and for paychecks and for all these, frivolous things that we think we need, but at the end of the day, like, you're intrinsically unhappy, and it's that quote, right? Many men live quiet lives of desperation, right? It's that moment you wake up to who you are and go, what is going on? Like, there's got to be something more to this.
Yeah. A friend of mine who's a pretty well-known media maven said to me, I'd much rather I'd much rather laugh in my Honda than cry in my Lamborghini. And I was like, yeah, I get it. Lots of rich dudes and gals crying in their Lamborghinis. Keith McNally is a pretty prominent New York City restaurateur. He posted a picture on social media yesterday that was awesome, and it was a like a bird's eye view of this beautiful, stone, mansion set in like the middle of this gorgeous field, like on a vineyard. And he wrote in the caption, "This was a house that I owned, somewhere on like the countryside of England, I think." It's like, this is a house that I owned. It was absolutely stunning on 15 acres of the most, beautiful landscape. And he says, what this picture doesn't tell you is that I was absolutely fucking miserable in this house. I hated everything about my life. And I was just like, wow. He just, he basically says, like, don't believe the hype. I really respect that guy for doing that, because I think, external things are strictly for instant gratification. They do not fix the internal dialogue. They don't. You get a dopamine rush. I've had experiences, man. I've done all right for myself in my career, and I've bought nice things. And the dopamine rush that I get right before I'm going to purchase something
it's through the roof.
Awesome.
Yeah.
But once you have it, it's just there. It doesn't fix anything that you think it may. Don't get me wrong. Being financially secure offers a level of comfort, but not as nearly as much as people might think. Happiness is an inside job. It really is. It has nothing to do with the externals, because even if you have a loving wife and kids that love you, but you don't love yourself, the chances of you being able to reciprocate that love are slim to none. And so if anybody's struggling with, self-hatred, depression, anxiety, my answer always is, when was the last time you took a long walk or a run? Like, when was the last time you did that for yourself? We've become a society that's stagnant. We talk about, the obesity epidemic and how food is, killing people, which is true. We neglect to talk about the fact that we've gone from these, outdoor working with your hands, manual labor beings, hunter-gatherers, to doing what we're doing right now, sitting on a fucking comfortable chair, staring at a computer screen for, if we're up, let's see, if you're lucky, you sleep 8 hours a night. So you've got 16 hours awake, and most people are sitting 12 of those 16 hours, if not more. I always tell people to move their bodies, because that's what we were born to do. We were born to move. We were not born to sit around. And if you're depressed or you're struggling with anything and you feel like you're stuck in a hole and you can't get out of bed, get the fuck out of bed. Get out of bed.
That's coming from a guy who is, and again, I'm with you on that. And I preach the same thing. I'm with you on that 100%. But it's so hard for people to, get, like, you're talking to a guy who wakes up at 5 a.m. and does his shit, right? Talking to a guy who wakes up at 4, like, goes on a trail run and runs 5 miles and is like, yeah, I'm going to do that. Or, 5 days a week, I have people trying to choke me, right? So it's so, from our perspective, it's just like, come on, just do this. And there is that, right? It's just, you have to get over it, right? You're kind of digging up and you're just digging yourself deeper. And it goes to your point earlier of just humbling yourself and asking for help, right? Because, for anybody, that's, I think, one of the most important, and some people don't know that they need to just move their bodies. Like, I'm with you. Like, anytime if I don't work out for a day, 2 days, whatever it is, I'm like, I'm a different fucking human being. Like, my brain is operating different. I'm short. I'm not the best version of myself, not even close to it. So now you're talking to people who have never done any of this. And it's like, what? Like, you're talking a different language. That's the,
but the thing that I'd say to that is, I go back to a point I was making earlier. We have a choice. I was a drug addict, man, overdosing on heroin. Actually, smoking crack, overdosing on heroin. I couldn't get out of my own way if someone had a gun to my head. And I'm here to tell you that I changed. I made the choice. I decided that I wanted to be better. And I took it hour by hour, minute by minute, ultimately day by day. And the idea here and the point I'm trying to make is, yes, it seems impossible for people, but I'm here to tell you that it is absolutely possible. And the only thing, person, object standing in your way is you. That's it. There's no one else stopping you from changing your life. I hate the term, it's hard to change the spots on a leopard's back. It's true. It's true because people are stubborn. You have an opportunity to change. There's no doubt about it. I'm here to tell you, I'm a living, breathing example of it. I know that if you just made a decision, and I always tell people that ask me to start by taking a walk. Go fucking take a walk. Don't listen to music. Go out, quiet, and go walk. You'll feel like $1 bazillion. There's no doubt. I don't know anyone who has began to walk the journey of fitness, nutrition, wellness, mindset. I don't know anyone that says, God damn it, I wish I never did this. No one. It sucks for the first 3 weeks. But once you're in it, it becomes part of you. And once it's part of you, life gets really good. It just does.
Yeah, it becomes a lifestyle. It becomes you're embodying, the best version of you. It's a daily practice, right? And it is about showing up and taking those small steps, as small as they may be, right? Turning the nozzle cold, making the better, healthier choice when it comes to, food consumption, bringing the awareness to it. And I think it's so much to what you're saying earlier is like just showing up for yourself. And if you could do that in these small little examples, as small as they may be, then you show to yourself that you can do something. And now you build off of that. And then all of a sudden it becomes a momentum and an inertia. And then you're gonna trip, you're gonna stumble, you're gonna fall, but you have the experience to build off of again. And you're no longer at the starting line, you're somewhere down the track. And if people can just get up for a walk. I love the no headphones thing, man, because headphones and music during a workout can be a cheat of your own awareness and can be like, it's like I started trail running, maybe like I'm on my 5th run, right? And I just find some trails or run them, whatever. And I don't have headphones. I have my phone. I have my $40 Timex just so I could see how, the miles and how far I've gone. If I had headphones, I'd be on the music and it would kind of, yes, it would elevate me at certain points. It would motivate me, right? But also I've had some really crazy eye-opening thoughts and awareness and just observing, just hearing the birds and jumping at a chipmunk or whatever it is, like the small little things that are changing the way I'm operating. Right. But if I had headphones on and I was listening to the first Slipknot album and just pumping through the forest, it would be a different experience.
Yep. I mean, I've developed all the businesses that I've launched and founded on runs without music, all of them. Every menu item, for the most part, comes to me on runs. I even carry a little notebook because I don't run with my phone. I carry a little notebook. And if I have a great thought, I stop and I write it down. Running for me, though I don't do it as much anymore. I do more walking these days, but running for me, walking for me is really moving meditation, and I love meditation. I don't do it every single day. I wish I did, because when I do it, it's so great. I meditate, 2 or 3 days a week, but my fitness and my specifically, walking or running has become a real opportunity for me to dive in and to work through things. I highly recommend walking or running without tunes. It's a different experience.
Totally different. What kind of stuff do you do for recovery? Do you do any like sensory deprivation? Do you do any like cryo, anything like that?
Yeah, so at the house upstate, I have a barrel sauna, and then in my garage, I have a chest freezer that I've converted into an ice bath. So I keep it at 38 degrees at all times with a temperature control mechanism. And so my I've got an ice bath whenever I want it in the garage. I'm a big fan of Normatec, so I've got the Normatec boots and the hips and the arm sleeves. I don't do as much mobility work as I should, but I'm a big CBD fan, so I use like a lot of CBD products, ointments and tinctures for recovery. Yeah, Sundays are typically I definitely get my recovery in on Sundays. I do 5 rounds of sauna and cold plunge. So I'll do 15 minutes in 200 degrees and then sit in the cold for 5 minutes, and I'll do 5 rounds of that. And I feel like, RoboCop when I'm done. And, 2 or 3 days a week, I throw on the Normatec boots, and I let that, take care of my legs. And if I'm lucky, I haven't had much body work since the pandemic, but when I was in the city, I used to go to my chiropractor once a month and try to get a massage once every 2 weeks, something like that.
The maintenance element of things is key. My big thing is just the weightless sensory deprivation, getting the tank.
I have not done that yet, man. And everybody tells me you got to get into it, Mike. I haven't done it yet. A friend of mine owns a bathhouse actually in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, and he has the Rolls Royce of float tanks, and they're actually not using it. And it's like a $60,000 tank. And he was like, I'll sell it to you for like next to nothing if you want to put it at the house upstate. And I was like really contemplating it, man, but I just don't know if I'd use it enough, because it's not cheap.
It's not cheap. I do it probably once a month. I would do it once a week. It is one of the best tools that I've ever used. The minute I got out of that tank, I was like, oh, this is a tool. This is not like a spa treatment. This isn't like some nice little massage or this is a tool for the mind and the body. And it just has helped me, I always fuck up the word, compartmentalize my brain and just peel back the rubber bands of a rubber band ball and just snap away. And I've had some amazing, deep, intrinsic moments in that tank, like outer body experiences that I can't even put into words. I try to, and people are like, okay, but it is. And I mean, obviously you have all the Epsom salt and the magnesium. And you're weightless. So you walk out and you're just like, oh my God, I feel amazing. But what it does for the mind and the spirit to me is there's really nothing like it. I mean, I meditate pretty regularly, and this is like meditation on steroids. It is just jacked up.
Wow. I got to try it.
Sold.
Yeah, pretty much. You got me.
Sold the tank. Dude, thank you so much for your time, man. I really appreciate it. I want you to get to your bed routine. I have to go get in bed and read my book because that's my routine, and just burn my eyes out until I fall asleep. But where can people connect with you? Where can people find more of you? Where can people get your services?
Yeah, so you can follow along my journey at Michael Chernow, pretty much on all social media platforms. If you want a really good fish taco, you can go check out Seamore's. They're all over New York City. If you like meatballs, you should check out the Meatball Shop. And I'm launching a new business called Creatures of Habit with a K, this summer that I'm really excited about. So keep your eyes open for that.
Awesome. Mike, thank you so much, man. I appreciate it, brother. And keep on showing up to what you do, man. You're super inspiring. You're a fun guy to follow because you like, again, from the outside, it's like this guy's got it dialed in, and it's fun to watch people operate on that level. So just keep on showing up, man. I appreciate your time tonight, and hopefully we'll continue the conversation.
Dude, this was awesome, man. I really appreciate you having me on. I'm honored, and you do the same, brother. Keep crushing. I appreciate you.
Be well.